Good evening, everybody. I hope you all can hear me and hear me well. It's been a while, like a couple weeks while. Um, I'm so excited that we're reconnecting. It's been an interesting week, to say the least, but I wanted to come here and connect with everybody because I know a whole bunch of you have been busy since mid-year. For those of you joining me live, hi. And please let me know if you cannot hear me. We are live both on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So if anybody is having sound issues, please let me know. So if it's your first time seeing one of these, my name is Sally Traore Ualaka. I'm the founder of Resi Prep 360, a program that's dedicated to helping student pharmacists land and figure out how to match to a program that they desire by strategy and design, not just luck, and applying to hope for the best. Um, so that's me. How do you reach me? I am on pretty much every social media platform, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube is Resi Prep 360, or you can connect with me right here on LinkedIn, just as Sally Traore Ualaka. Thank you for being here. I wanted to just come on this live really quickly today to discuss a few things. Mid-year ASHP's mid-year meeting was last week. Everybody, I hope, had safe travels back home, and it's setting in now that we are knee deep within season, and there are a few things that you probably are working on simultaneously. So I wanted an opportunity to kind of go over what some of those things are so that you have an opportunity to kind of make somewhat of um, a roadmap or a to-do list for yourself so that you don't feel like you're kind of just all over the place with some of these things. One of the first things that I think has to happen immediately following mid-year is that everybody you interacted with at mid-year should have received some form of a thank you email. The reason why I am a proponent of emailing instead of sending handwritten notes, it's because just you were there, you were at mid-year and you saw the pandemonium and how many people stopped at different booths. It's really, really, really unlikely that if it was your first time meeting a program, speaking with a current resident at a program, you made such a lasting impression that your handwritten thank you notes is going to be this deciding factor. I've been saying this since day one. This is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So it's something that you should have been relationship building and working your way up to so that that meeting at the showcase wasn't this initial meeting with programs. And if it was, it's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. But I just think that the people who've been building relationship all this time had a lot more of a better time engaging and less of an awkward mid-year engagement than the folks that walked up cold turkey and it's the first time and you're having to do your elevator pitch from top down. Versus if you kind of had a chance to interact with the programs on a local level at a residency showcase, or perhaps you've been sending them emails, introducing yourself to the current residents, asking the current residents questions, or even asking the RPD some specific structure or cultural questions to the RPD of the program, the showcase may not have been as awkward for you for those programs. Nevertheless, I think that thanking every program for being there, for taking the time to be at the showcase and taking the time to meet with you, answer your questions, and share things with you is going to be really, really important to do. It's a good professional practice to just get into because nobody's really required to be there. So that's the first component that I think should be happening right now. The second thing I wanted to address is for the folks that were not able to attend mid-year. If you weren't able to attend mid-year, I personally and I really and truly don't think this is a deal breaker. Mid-year is a huge financial commitment, and for some people, It's just not possible because of various reasons, family commitment, or just straight up the finances and what it takes to be there for 5 days, 6, 7 days. They couldn't afford it and then be able to come afford an application process. Not realistic for them. That's okay. Um, I don't know what advice you've been given that said that that would be a deal breaker. I categorically disagree with that. I don't think that it would be a deal breaker. But I do think that if you were unable to attend midyear, there are some very specific steps that you have to take to kind of ensure that that doesn't harm you, right? Um, Reaching out to the RPD and letting them know that you have a very strong interest in their program. You're interested in speaking with the current residents, connecting with those current residents, asking them targeted questions, meaningful questions, um, and establishing that initial relationship with the RPD to just let them know that you weren't able to go, not because you're not committed or interested in the process, but financially it wasn't feasible. I honestly, I don't personally know any RPD that's looking for some lengthy or in-depth explanation as to why you couldn't go to mid-year. It just needs to be that I didn't get to go, but I'm still interested in applying to your program. So for anyone who couldn't go, please make that contact and engage with the RPD about that and the fact that you couldn't go. The other piece of it now is I think and something else I've been kind of talking about all along. Some of you kind of took the advice, and I'm hoping that you're seeing the benefit of that now. Some of you went 50-50 and didn't do all of it. I was really, really pushing that by mid-year, your CV is over 99% ready, right? There's a reason for that. And I was also pushing for the fact that by mid-year, you should at least have a working first draft of your letter of intent. There's a reason for that. Some of the programs, the due dates are as early as December 15th, like tomorrow. I just realized, like, the due date is as early as tomorrow. If you just came back from mid-year Tuesday, you have 3 days to tighten up your CV and get a final draft of your letter of intent and be ready for submission. Some of you will absolutely find yourself dropping programs from your list for no other reason because you don't feel ready. You don't feel like you have all of the components where they need to be for you to confidently apply to those programs. Please remember, application is not free. You're paying for it. All right. So I don't know what baller status that you're on where you're just able to apply to a gang of programs and it's going to be what it's going to be. Majority of the students that I know, these are incredibly calculated moves because you have to pay to apply. It's not free to apply. You pay to apply. So being strategic and really being calculative about how you go through this process is going to be paramount. So really, really think about that. If your letter of intent is not ready, it behooves you to get a first draft of that working now. As of tomorrow, we hit another major deadline point, which is going to be the 25th, Christmas Day. So everybody else is like, Merry Christmas and celebrating. You're busy trying to convert documents to PDF so you can upload them and then maybe you can relax. Right? Get your CV and your letter of intent finalized like yesterday. Very, 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 very important. The other piece of this that I wanted to discuss today, like I told you guys that this isn't going to be very long because the ball is literally in your court now. It's about all of the things that you need to be working on. But the other thing that I want you to start thinking about is I don't want you to waste your post submission time. I don't want you to submit and then agonize over your email and stalk your inbox incessantly for the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, right? Like mid-January before programs can begin to get back to you because you have some due dates that go right into January 15th. I want you to really use this time after you submit your application to begin thinking and preparing for the next phase of the application process. Again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. That next phase or this next phase of your application process is really going to be about realizing what things you need to have or what things you should begin working on so that when the interview invites come, you are ready to go. Because what you may not be thinking about right now is, unless it's your block off, you're going to be going to rotations. And I hate to break it to you, majority of your preceptors, they're not going to be very enthusiastic about giving you the time off or not giving you your full rotation load because you're preparing for a residency interviews. They're not. And so over the years, the strategy that I've found that's been incredibly effective for candidates is get a series of things lined up and a series of things together so that you can minimize how much time you have to work on or gather these things. When the interview invites start coming in, you're ready to go. And we'll have a whole separate discussion on how you organize yourself for interview day and how you book interviews and all that. But I think it's important for you to realize that being proactive through this process isn't only going to be good for your mental health, but it's going to help ensure that these appy rotations that you're on, that those rotations don't suffer, and that you're able to continue to perform on those rotations while simultaneously be feeling and being ready for your residency interview process. Traditionally, most residency interviews are going to ask for you to submit something. And so this is a list of different things that um, the candidates I work with, I tell them to collect and have ready before the interview invites come in. The first thing is, some programs may ask you to provide an example of your work or a writing sample. This could be something like soap notes, I think, are usually the best selection or the best examples of your work to choose for these things. Some programs are going to be interested in your ability to articulate yourself um, with respect to patient care, your ability to review and develop a pharmaceutical care plan for a patient. They're going to be interested in seeing an example of that. So I want to encourage you to go ahead and start thinking about which one of your pharmaceutical care plans or which one of your soap notes did you receive really positive feedback on, that you made some really good edits on, that's up to par, where you'd be very proud to put that forward should a program ask you to submit an example of your work. The other thing is, a program may ask you to do a patient case presentation. Patient case presentations could be that the program tells you, do a patient case presentation on a topic of your choice, or they'll actually send you a case. They'll send you a case and ask you to do, I've seen it range anywhere from 10 up to 25 minutes as a presentation. So when I work with you guys, I encourage you to make, if they send you the case, I encourage you to put that case together in about 25 minutes to present and 5 minutes, 25 minutes to present and 5 minutes for questions. Let's be prepared for that. And then if their ask is that you present this case as a pearl, for example, in 10 minutes, trimming the body of work is a lot easier than having to build one from scratch. So think about a patient case presentation that you've done on a topic that you're incredibly confident with, on a topic that you feel like you can prepare and be able to answer questions in depth and very thoroughly about, and have that set aside as well. Programs are interested in something like an about me presentation. Your about me presentation, one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of people make is they think that this needs to be like a pharmacy focused about you presentation. I want to warn you about something when you're going on these interviews. Becoming a pharmacist is what we do, or it's something that we aspire to do. It's something we aspire to be in our community, to advance community health and be a resource to our communities. It is not who we are. If you've never heard this before, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It is not who you are. Um, right? You could be an incredibly passionate person about pharmacy. You could be an incredibly passionate person about health disparities in your community. You could be an incredibly passionate person about improving access, improving quality, the delivery of quality and equitable care in your community. This is who you are. But if you focus your About Me presentation all on your pharmacy career, the awards and the recognitions and the accolades, all these things have a place in your About Me, but I don't want you to make that the focus of your presentation. You as a person that's occupying space in this world, you have a story, and there is a person that you want the program to know about, and you want to be able to let them know who that person is and how that the story of that person is going to contribute to the pharmacist that they're going to invest in and molding and developing. But some of you struggle with this a lot because you've spent the last 4 years putting a lot of time and energy in developing who you are as a future pharmacist and all of the difference that you're so eager to make as a pharmacist. And you are going to find yourself kind of struggling with what to talk about um, when it comes to asking you questions about what drives you and where your beginnings, like your story and how you ended up here. What are you most proud of? Things like that. There could be an entire conversation had about how to structure an About Me, an impactful and meaningful About Me presentation. I am happy to circle back here and share some of that. I have folks that have taken really creative ways around their About Me's. They've made videos. And I do want to share those videos. I have to get consent from the owners first, but people have taken incredibly creative routes to do their About Me videos where they created videos that told their stories and the stories of their parents and them and where they're headed. And you absolutely get it because there's a storyline that you're following in a 3 to 5 minutes video, rather than having people sit through a slide deck for 10 minutes where you're not sharing interesting things about yourself. You're not sharing anything intimate about yourself. At the end of the presentation, the program has no clue really who you are, what drives you, and things like that. But it is a popular thing to have programs ask you for and say to submit an About Me presentation. They'll either have you submit that or they'll have you put it together and then you will present it on the interview day. So start thinking about what that would look like. And in my opinion, if you're doing a slide deck, your About Me shouldn't be a presentation longer than 10 minutes. If you decide to go the more creative route of creating a video, a movie of a sort about yourself and about you, I don't think it should exceed 5 minutes. Like 3 to 5 minutes to ask people to watch a video, I think is more than enough. We don't want that to be 10 minutes, or I wouldn't recommend for that to be 10 minutes. It's not how long it is, it's whether or not you're able to make your point. So that's the other piece that I think you should have ready. Journal club presentations are always fair game. If you have a professional portfolio, show and tell, in my opinion, is amazing for interviews, whether it's a QR code that can take them to an online portfolio, or if you create a physical portfolio that you want to share and tell them about. It's never going to be something, in my opinion, that's going to be negative. So this could also be the time where you start working on developing such a platform a one-stop shop per se, where folks can scan a QR code and they get to this universe that is all about you, and it's a 360 view of who you are and everything that they would potentially desire to learn about you. This is also the time to develop that. The point I'm making is, once you hit submit on forecast, it's not a time for you to allow yourself to be overtaken by anxiety. There's a lot of work to do. There's so much work to do to prepare for that time leading up to the invites and how to respond and preparing for the interviews. The last piece I have for you today is essentially that interview prep process. It is my opinion, and I stand by it wholeheartedly, that mock interviews are imperative to your success. It is not enough for you to look up what questions that could potentially come up and for you to think about how you would answer those questions. You have got to have people in your life that are willing to give you 30 minutes at a time, 1 hour at a time, to really mock interview you, that are going to critique on your posture, your mannerism, your enunciation, your pronunciation of words, how clearly you're articulating yourself, your ability to tell a story and not take people on like a whirlwind before we get to the point of that story. How to be brief when it's important, but how to elaborate, but also be concise when you're elaborating on things and shedding more light on things. These are interviewing skills that people may believe is interviewing skills 101. I beg to differ, um, because I rarely do mock interviews with people that come in and it's like, yes, stellar, do that and you're going to do well. It's something that you're going to need to practice. And with each interview you go on, you learn more about how you're going to do it differently each time and do it better each time. So begin thinking about that. Begin thinking about who are some people in your life that you think would be willing to give you 30 minutes to an hour and helping you practice. And by practice, they go through the whole thing. You review the lighting, you review the fundamentals of virtual interviewing. You pick a spot in your home, or maybe you have to go outside of your home if that's not going to be a quiet place for you to be able to interview with no distractions. There's a lot to do, and sitting around and just monitoring your inbox all day is it's not going to be a conducive way to spend that. Lastly, I just always want to do this because this is that time of year. I don't want you to neglect the impact that this process is going to take on your mental health. If you're blessed to be in a family where people are familiar with what residency application process is and what it takes and how long how long of a journey it is, you are so fortunate because you have people that you can really have a conversation with, and they know what you're saying. They understand the uncertainty of it, whether it's going well, whether you're uncertain, whether you're feeling a little shaken by something that's happened on an interview, a question you were asked on the interview and you're unsure about its appropriateness or even the need for that question. More importantly, how you responded to that question. If you have people in your life that are able to do that for you, you're so lucky. But majority of you are the first in your family. If you're not the first to graduate from pharmacy, you're probably the first person to decide that you want to do a residency. It could feel like a very, very isolating journey. You could find yourself feeling like the group of friends that you're with, that you thought we were all in this together and there was a supportive spirit at the beginning. That supportive spirit turns into a competitive spirit really quickly. And you could find yourself struggling with how to navigate that. I just want you to know that, like, as isolating as it feels, you want to find an outlet, find someone. Maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's a professor, maybe in the group of friends, there's one other friend that's where you are, where they would like it to be more of a supportive spirit instead of a competitive spirit. But I don't want you to think that you're going to go through this entire process and it's going to be like roses and it's going to be so awesome. And match day is going to come and you're going to get the green line that says congratulations and all this. That's my hope and my prayer for all of you, that that's what the process is. But as a person who's gone through this and a person who's supported other people who's going through this every single year, I can tell you that you're going to be taxed and you're going to be pushed, and there are things that are going to be asked of you from an emotional and mental standpoint that you've never probably had to do before. And that's okay. Like, I really want you to know that that is okay. It's okay to be certain one day and then uncertain the next day. But what I don't want happening is for you to give up or for you to allow some of that negative self talk to take hold, because it's going to come through. So let's learn to just be kinder to ourselves and the conversations that we're going to have with ourselves in the upcoming month or two. Let's learn to or train ourselves to make those conversations a little bit more kind, recognizing that we are in a challenging season of our professional development, but not allowing the conversation that we have with ourselves to be so harsh and so negative. And let's try to be our own personal number one cheerleaders. And if you are just looking for a cheerleader, like, I'm here. Um, I get it. I never want to say I know how you feel, but I get it. I get how this could get to you and get to anybody. So if you're just looking for someone to listen, I am that. I would love to be that. But just prepare that it's not going to be easy, but it is absolutely worth it. Um, that is all I have for you today. We are going to get back on our weekly live schedules because things are moving quickly and things are unfolding quickly. So I won't be difficult to find. I'll be around and my inbox is always open. My email is always open. Just reach out and let me know how I can support you on your way to just becoming the most phenomenal pharmacist ever. Thank you all for joining. And if you're watching this on playback, please tell your friends, subscribe on the channel on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn, as well as TikTok. But it's a privilege, definitely, to be able to connect with anybody who's going through this and be of impact in any magnitude I can. Have a wonderful Wednesday evening, everybody. Bye.